Hey, and welcome everybody. This is Sherman Ray, and this is This Week in Bible Prophecy, or This Week in Prophecy. You know, we are excited about this, guys. This is our first show that we're producing, that we're calling This Week in Prophecy. It's another broadcast of God's Stream, and I want to welcome everybody to the broadcast. Before we get going too far, we've got Godstream is just this wonderful platform that we've been trying to develop, and we've been having great success with it so far. But we want to make sure that we get other people in, and we produce shows that I think that are going to be just awesome for everybody else to see. So we decided to ask a real good friend to come on the broadcast, and his name is Aaron Newton. I want to bring Aaron on really quick here, and let's get to know him. So Aaron, how are you doing today?
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing awesome, man. You know, this has been, so I was just introducing the show and letting everybody know that this is a brand new show that we've got on, and I'm really excited. How about you? Are you pretty excited?
I'm excited. I'm so excited. This is not the first time that we've talked over the air.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the last time we talked, I had a cold as well. So here I am in 120-degree weather with a cold. So but,
I know
we'll be fine.
That is like, so Aaron and I have known each other for a little over a year now, maybe a couple of years now.
A couple of
years now. And the first time we even had any kind of discussion about the prophetic, we were having like prayer meetings, and Aaron would say, "Hey, you know what? I've just got this thing. The Lord's been speaking to me." And so I said, "Aaron, this is something that is that I'm not unfamiliar with, but it's something that you really need to really get into." And week after week after week, Aaron would come to me and say, "Hey, look, dude, the Lord is speaking to me, and this is getting exciting." And so we decided, hey, let's after a year now, let's go ahead and start doing something. So tell me about your journey. Let everybody know who you are first, and give us a little bit of background on who you are. Okay.
Okay. Well, Sherman said my name. I am from Azusa, California. I grew up there all my life. I joined the military when I was young. I spent most of my adult life in the military, half in the Navy, and then I went into the Army and retired from the Army. And I wasn't really a Christian or even living, with biblical values at all. But I was in a really bad spot when I was young, and when we were kids, prayer was an option for things, and so I was on my bed and I was praying, and I said, if you deliver from this situation. And a couple weeks later, somebody showed up at my house and said, "Hey, you want to move to New Mexico?" And I was like, "Yeah, let's do it." And that, I feel like at that point I made a covenant with God, but I wasn't keeping the covenant. I wasn't keeping my side. And now, and I look back at my life, I see all these times where I didn't have money and I was hungry, and somebody would come and give me a Costco card. And I'm thinking to myself, what am I going to do with a Costco card? But I would go every day and eat free samples until I was full. And then I realize now that he kept his part of the bargain. And so after about 8 months into COVID, I was sitting at the top of my stairs.
Mm-hmm.
And my wife had said, "You got to see this video." And I was like, "Well, what is it?" Excuse me. And she showed me a Kim Clement video. And
yeah, sure.
When I saw that video, my life changed. And it wasn't because this man, I saw the power of God working through a man, and it changed my life.
Wow.
Paul says that I don't come here with elegant words. I come here to display the power of God. And that's exactly what happened to me. I saw the power of God working through this man, and it changed my life. And it wasn't something I'm like, okay, now I'm going to change. He did it. I saw the power. Little ways after that, I was baptized in the Holy Spirit, and it wasn't like I went to a prayer meeting. I came home from work, fell on the floor, baptized in the Holy Spirit, and I remember it was so loud that I thought the neighbors were going to call the cops on me. I was yelling at my wife or something, and I was home alone. And so, but from that moment on, he's like, "Wake up." It's not a loud voice. It's just God speaking to his people. And he said, "Wake up." And I just ran.
Yeah.
And, so that's just a little bit about myself. And I've been, a full on living as, you know, with biblical values as best I could, as I can. It's a little hard sometimes,
Oh,
because life,
sure. Yeah.
it doesn't just change overnight.
Hmm.
And but yeah, even my wife says that you are not the man I married. I've been
Isn't
married
that
to my
exciting? How the Lord
yeah,
changes you, like it's like you're like what do they call it, like an onion, right? And the Lord just
yeah,
takes all those peelings off
yeah,
the
that's
outer
right.
shell, and it's a progressive thing though, right? You're not
I,
perfect, right?
I would, the onion thing for myself. I don't think it was a layer thing. I think he sliced me right down the middle and said, "Wake up." But no, you're right. There still needed so much that had to change, and it, like it was hard on my family at first because
Hmm.
my wife didn't understand. We were arguing. I'm like, knowing things about
Mm.
scripture or the way the church is operating, and she'd been a Christian for 15, 16, 17 years,
Hmm.
and it was really hard on her.
Yeah.
But one day she was praying and she said, "Isn't this what you asked for? Isn't this the
Isn't
kind
this
of man
what
you
you
asked
asked
for?"
for?
And that really changed the direction of our relationship. It wasn't so much that she needed to tell me how to be a Christian. It was like, let's do this together.
Let's do this together. So that's the interesting thing apart about it, because you were hearing from the Lord, even though you had not gone to Bible college. You're not like a seminary trained guy or anything like that. But the Lord had started speaking to you, just like He did to the prophets of old. And your wife was going, "Oh my gosh, how do you know this stuff?
Yeah.
How are you?" It reminds me of the New Testament disciples, and they were saying, well, these guys aren't learned guys, but
That's
they're
right. Yeah.
preaching stuff that they know. And if you've spent any time, and many of you are watching this show for the first time, but you recognize Aaron, and you're going, wait a minute, I know that guy. I know who that guy is, and Aaron does know a lot. He's very deep, and yet he's not been. You haven't been like, seminary trained or anything like that, but the grasp you have of the word is just amazing. So let me ask you a question though. When did
Sure.
you first know um, that you had this prophetic gifting?
Um, okay, so 2021,
Mm-hmm.
it was right, geez, before the pandemic or the very beginning. People were talking about this sickness or something, and I had this extremely vivid dream, and it was like, I didn't, because I was in the military so long. I don't sleep very well, kind of thing, and I don't remember having dreams or anything like that. Then all of a sudden one day I had this dream and it was so detailed and so vivid, and I can picture now the like I saw this man in the dream and I see the face, and I won't forget that face. I won't forget the what he looked like, the expression he made to me. It was very vivid. And I woke up and I'm like, Cecilia, I got to tell you about this. I'm like, I don't remember having a dream or remember my dream since I was young at least. And that's when I knew that, okay, this is something I need to write it down. So that's what I started doing. I wrote it down,
Mm-hmm.
how the date, what I saw, what I felt, and I could just give you a little bit of the dream just so you understand the context. I was walking in a city and it was like, oh my goodness, Philadelphia,
Uh-huh.
old Philadelphia. Like it looked, had cobblestone. The streets were little square, 2 inch by 2 inch cobblestones, and I'm walking down the street and I see this man and he's talking on a payphone, like one of the glass Superman payphones, and it was broken, and pieces of the glass were missing. But he was on the payphone and he was making phone calls. And next to him, he had a red silk gym bag, and it was open. I could see stacks of $10,000 bills in there,
Oh.
or stacks of $10,000. And so he's making calls, and I could tell that the people were like, "Yeah, you're on your own now. No, that's it." And he would hang up and just be like, "Oh." And when I walked in front of the payphone, he turned his head and looked at me and he said, "Whatever they said I did, I didn't do it." And then he went back to making phone calls as just like that was it.
Yeah.
And so I look around and I see like red brick houses or buildings, the old 1700s red brick kind of things. And as I'm going through, I'm just like, this is weird. I'm in my dream, I'm thinking, this is so weird. And I'm walking and I'm kind of rolling my feet as I walk, like somebody who marches in a marching band. And so at the end of the dream, I woke up and like I'll never forget that man's face. He was a black man, but he had curly hair, like loose curls, not
Hmm.
tight.
Yeah, so they're
Like
not loose curls like mine. They were tight curls.
yeah, whatever. No, no, no. It was like okay, so something that the Lord revealed to me recently
Uh-huh.
about that man, because I had three more dreams with him in it.
Oh,
And
okay,
he was a Middle Eastern man,
okay,
is what
sure,
it was,
okay.
because he had the loose curls. Anyway, so I wrote it down and I'm just like, this is weird. Let me pray on it. 3:30 in the morning every day. God's waking me up 3:30 in the morning. I wake up, I look at my clock, it's the same time every morning, and I'm not an early person. Yeah, I was in the military. I did that because I had to, but now when I retired, I'm like, forget all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
took my uniform off and I put it in the closet, and that was it. Now I like to sleep in.
Okay.
I don't want to do nothing in that kind of sense.
Yes.
So 3:30 every morning, I would go pray, and sometimes he would give me little revelations about it, but sometimes not. And the dreams just continued every day, day after day after day.
Mm-hmm.
And now I have 200 or so dreams that I've written down. And when I knew that there's a lot of them I just don't understand what he's saying to me.
Sure. Sure.
People, I would tell somebody and they're like, "What does it mean?" I don't know.
You don't know.
I
Well,
just, I just, I don't know what it means. I
yeah.
just know that I need to write these down and pray
Let
about
me interrupt you just for a second, Aaron.
it.
And
Sure.
so some of you might just be this might be the first time you're watching the show. This is This Week in Prophecy, and I'm your host Sherman Ray. This is Aaron Newton, and Aaron is talking about the prophetic and how the prophetic movement and the prophetic gifting has changed his life, and really kind of I think this is all a journey. But I remember as you're relating the stories about these dreams and everything, that you would contact me like every other day, or at least once or twice a
Yeah.
week, right? Hey, I got this
Sure.
dream. So when you say you have 200 dreams, I don't know if you're many people are watching the show are like, I don't even remember my dreams, but
Yeah.
you remember yours in detail. And so we're going to talk about that as we go along in this series, and we'll talk about that a little
Sure.
bit more. But I want to talk to you a little bit because a lot of people are still confused. They're going,
Sure.
oh, this guy's talking about his dreams and everything else. So let's back up a little bit, and we'll kind of get the 1,000-foot view of what we're talking about here. So in essence, what is the prophetic, and what is a prophet? Just kind of give us a kind of a 1,000-foot view, and as we go along, maybe we'll drill it down even more. But in essence, what is the prophetic?
So to me, the prophetic is vision for the future. God does nothing without telling his prophets.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we know that um, the way Old Testament, New Testament, it seems to have shifted. The Old Testament, where the judgment of God, but in that time they could have repented and changed, and God would change his mind. Right? We know about Noah and that story. And anyways, so in the New Testament, it's building up a church. Jesus was the prophet. He was the priest. He was the lamb. And so we're getting this church off the ground. We're getting his church built. And so I think it really was a lot of helping those people, because it was in the beginning, it was such a small community, getting them to go the certain way. Well, now Christianity is around the world. I mean, it's not as much as it should be, but it's pretty much everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So now that we're seeing in the world, where every time the Israelites would go away from God and take on these Baal things, or they would intermarry with the with the other nations, and so they would kind of fall away. Solomon let his wives build temples in Israel, right? So things like that. So then they would fall away, and then God would send somebody, and that man was his voice.
Okay,
And
sure.
so this is God saying, "Look, I'm telling you what's going to happen,
Yeah,
right? If you don't
sure.
fix yourself." And men are hard. They get set in their ways and their traditions. And who's this guy? Like you said, like I'm
Sure.
not a learned man.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't go to seminary school. I didn't read the Bible. For me, at the beginning of this journey, I watched the Bible series on History Channel. Thought that was everything I needed to know about the
That's
Bible.
all you need to know right there. That's and I
But
hear a lot of people say the same thing. So, but
yeah,
let me I'm gonna just slow you up just a little bit there.
sure.
So, in essence, and what I hear you saying, a prophet is somebody who hears from God, and he's and I could be somebody talking about the future. It could be talking about something that's going on right now. It could be maybe a warning that the Lord is going to have for the church or for individuals. Are we getting close to what you're trying to say there?
Well, that's what I was saying. In this day,
Mm-hmm.
I think that we're seeing a lot of evil,
Yeah.
and we're seeing it in our faces now. They're not even trying to hide it
Oh yeah.
because they've gotten comfortable with saying, well, we're going to put this idol on top of the New York courthouse because Trump's going to be having his hearings here.
Mm-hmm.
So I think God is speaking to many people.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people just like me with
Mm-hmm.
dreams and words and visions and whatnot that are quiet because they're afraid. But not afraid in a sense like coward, but afraid because, I mean, you've known me
Mm-hmm.
for a couple of years. You know the
Yeah.
struggle I've had with just relaying it. But it is God speaking to his people, trying to get them to wake up,
Yeah. And I
just
think
like
that
he did with Nineveh. Wake up, what you're doing is wrong. And
yeah.
it's his word to whoever he
Sure.
chooses, not whoever's the most prepared for it. It's whoever he chooses, because I think that obedience is what he's looking for, not learned people. He's looking for the
Mm-hmm.
obedient people.
Yeah, and there's and so the prophetic communities yet actually. I don't know how big it is. I mean, some of the big names, and I think you've said one of them before. Um, People like Chris Volatin.
Sure.
Who else? How many other people do you? Some of these, some
Well, for
people
me
that I know.
myself, I listen to only a few
Yeah.
because I don't want to get not tainted as in it's bad,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't want to be polluted with other people's words and then it affect my word. But I do like Julie Green
Okay.
she's pretty big. I see like Robin Bullock.
Okay.
I don't really listen to him as much anymore because man, his words are like very similar. Tim Sheets,
Tim
that
Sheets.
man, I
Sure.
sent that to you the other day.
Yeah.
I sent you like a stack of dreams and his
Mm.
Sunday sermon.
Yeah.
I think it's all coming to a head. All these
Okay.
dreams and things are coming to a head. So Tim Sheets right now for me, I will get something and then I will go see what he said lately, and usually it's like spot on.
Yeah. So you got
But
that's like Tim
there's quite
Sheets.
a few.
Now Tim Sheets has a brother. His name is Dutch, correct?
Dutch,
Dutch
yes.
Sheets. So Tim and Dutch. I remember I remember a few years back, Chuck Pierce, and Chuck
Yeah, yeah,
Pierce,
sure.
a big name in the prophetic. So it's not as though we've got a couple of kooky guys. Okay, I mean people analogize those people who are in the prophetic movement, and they get a picture of somebody who's in the prophetic movement or who have exercised the gift, the office, the ministry of being in the prophetic movement or the prophetic ministry. It's kind of kooky. Generally have long hair and generally, and we wouldn't qualify for that. They might have a long beard, um, but but the thing that they all have in common, though, it seems like, is that they're hearing from the Lord, and the
Yes.
Lord has got a message for the church. What makes somebody who's different? What's the difference between somebody who's used in the prophetic movement as opposed to a pastor, a regular pastor of a church?
Well, I mean, for just, I think, the, a pastor, as much as he wants to lead the whole thing, he needs advisors and an elder board,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so, I think people that hear from God, obey what God says, and speaks what He says when He says it. You don't always speak it. You don't always tell everything.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's just something for you or something for a certain individual or whatever. But I think that if a pastor, and that's his true calling, right, then he's going to be able to pastor the people in a way that would keep them from going left or right.
Okay.
Okay. But also in that, if let's say this pastor is, I don't know, doing something bad,
Okay.
okay?
All right. Sure.
Sometimes, like, let's think about, David, and when the prophet came to him and said, God saw what you did, he's going to take your child, but he still loves you,
Mm-hmm.
right? Sometimes it takes somebody who hears from God and speaks when God says to do that for him to say, you know what, maybe I am doing wrong, because we're all men, we're all fallible. I mean, I'm not anything special just because of these things, but I make mistakes too. But on the other hand, if God is telling me something specific about a person
Mm-hmm.
and they're doing something bad, and I will say it, um, it's good counsel. I don't,
Yeah. Good
it's
counsel.
good counsel,
Sure. Yeah. So
and we
yeah,
all need
because they're
counsel.
different offices. I was reading in preparing for this show, and I was in First Corinthians, and we are talking about spiritual gifts, and
Sure.
1 Corinthians 12, 13, and 14, and they were just talking about these offices and stuff like that, and how specific the Lord is about the prophetic gifting, about
Yeah.
the office of somebody who's a prophet in the church. Um, it's so. Can you receive? I guess my question. I guess it leads me into kind of my second question for you. Can you receive a prophetic gift? Can something like lay hands on you, and say, hey, guess what? I bestow on you now. You're the gift of prophecy. Have you ever heard anybody do that?
To be honest, it says that in the Bible, it does say that you should pray for these gifts,
Okay.
right? It says that you should pray for, maybe I speak in tongues more than everybody,
Mm-hmm.
but what is better than that is speaking in prophecy, and you should pray for these gifts, right? You should ask for these gifts. Um, you know, I really don't have an opinion on that, because
Okay.
nobody laid their hands on me. It
Sure.
just happened.
Yeah.
And so as I prayed more and more, it became more and more. And as my relationship with God got closer and closer, it became sometimes almost overwhelming,
Mm-hmm.
but what he showed me in the beginning was have patience. We're all, as the body, like the Acts church, the church in Act, I mean, that was everyday life for them. Healing, prophecy,
Yep.
all the gifts. That was just everyday life, and they walked that every day. But I mean, that was a long time ago, and I think that there was a lot of constraints
Yeah.
from certain factions of the church that kind of pushed it away.
I,
I
I, I think we call those denominations.
don't know.
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
that
yeah, and
yeah.
so I think I think we can all be pretty plain on that. Is there over the eons now? We're talking about decades and centuries. Certain denominations go, hey, guess what? That's not for today. This isn't, because some denominations don't believe in healing. Oh my gosh, some of them don't believe in music. You know,
That's right.
right? Some of
That's
them don't believe in women cutting their hair, or anything like that. And have you seen that with the prophetic also, where people are saying, "Hey, dude, you might be a prophetic guy, but we don't do that here because it's
right.
not for today."
So, my experience, let me just give you a little short. My experience with that is that a lot of people, if it doesn't happen to them, they don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand that. Okay. And I will just say this, Sherman, as you and me being friends for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
the most gifted pastors, prophets, are the ones that were kicked out of their denomination. Okay. So
Mm.
let's
Sure,
let's say that.
I believe it.
But um, I find that a lot of people are resistant, and um, like at my work, right? So I there was one other guy that worked there, and he was a Christian. He was a Southern Baptist cessationist. They don't believe in none of that,
Okay.
right? But what I've learned over my time of I love history, and I research things, and I actually do research the different denominations, and so he would tell me, well, the pastor can do this and that, and I'm like, well, what are you talking about? Where does it say that? So we get in the Bible. I'm like, well, what does it say? And so we read it. And I'm like, let's read it again. No, let's read it one more time. And I remember that he would get angry with me because I wasn't just falling into line with what he thought.
Mm-hmm.
After reading it 3 times, he goes, oh, well, it really doesn't say that. I'm like, why do you just take, this is what our problem is. We don't come home and read the Bible. We just take men's words for it. Martin Luther, he, when the Reformation, the church came, he just his big thing was, we're now going to give the Bible into your hands. We're not just going to trust that the priest is preaching in the best interest of you.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're going to give the Bible into your hands. And then the Catholics are like, no, no, you should only hear the word preached from the priest. And so when that happened, it opened it up to say, hey, I can read it for myself. But a lot of people didn't read back then. Bibles weren't easy to come by,
Sure. Yeah.
this, that, and the other. So who taught Lutheran how to be a Christian?
Mm.
It was the Catholic. He was a Catholic.
Okay.
So when he reformed the church, he didn't go far enough. For me, he didn't go far enough. So yes, we want to open it up so people have more hands on, but you still gotta, those, no, you have to, you can't do that, right? I
Yeah.
hear that a lot. You can't do that. You
Can't do
can't
that.
say that.
Yeah. Can't do that. Can't say
So
that. Sure.
these traditions are passed down from generation to generation to generation. I like to mix my food together when I eat. I grew up in California, and people would always make fun of me. Why
I
do you mix your rice
I
and
know.
beans
I
together?
I was gonna mention
It
that,
tastes
but
good. It tastes good, right?
okay.
Well, 1,000 years ago, one of my relatives did the same thing, and I don't know why I do it, but I noticed my dad does it, my aunts do it, my grandfather did it, but it's just something that handed down that we don't even know why we're doing it anymore,
Sure.
but they're still doing it,
Yes.
and there's a lot of twisting of the word in that.
There is. Yeah. But time has just flown by so far, and we've not gotten even to half the questions we were going to ask. I was going to ask you today, but that's fine. We'll do it next week, and we'll actually start. It's a great way to start off. I want to end with something that I think people will appreciate right now. Is the Lord? I mean, we've only got a couple minutes left,
Really?
but yeah, I
Oh
know
man,
it just goes so
jeez,
fast. Has
got
the
so much to
Lord been
say.
speaking to you? Because as we were talking about, the prophetic is the Lord speaking through a man or a woman, and unto people, the church, could be individuals, that kind of stuff. Is the Lord giving you something right now you can kind of share with us in the time that we have left? And like I said, we just got a couple of minutes left. But can you just share what the Lord has been speaking to you lately?
Um, so he speaks to me many different ways, through dreams, visions, and through just straight up, I'm dropping this word on you. And a couple weeks ago, I was at home or driving to work, and I was at a stoplight, and I just had this fear come over me, and it was very bad. Like I was just afraid, and I'm never like that. I don't care. Like I don't fear, I don't fear nothing because I know that the end result is heaven with Jesus. And so, but what he said to me was, he said that the big people we were just talking about are going to be almost persecuted
Mm-hmm.
because the enemy is tired of them knowing their plans, putting out
Sure.
the plans, because people are really starting to listen.
So you're talking about the prophetic folks who are in the
Yeah.
prophetic
Yeah.
community. Sure.
And do you remember a few, maybe it was months ago, um, I said, hey, Sherman, enjoy your anonymity. Do you remember that?
No,
So,
no, nope. Don't remember that. No.
yeah, I know. So, anyways, but this is the time I feel like a lot of new voices are going to arise now. And so, I don't know. We just need to pray. I think
Yeah.
a lot of the things that I see are for people to pray about. I don't, and I do, oh man, there's so much I want to say about this.
Mhm.
We see the nation, there's prophets over the nation, prophets over the state, prophets over regions, prophets in just a church.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I'm seeing. I know my job is this region, whatever that is. I seen it. He's told me, don't be afraid. But we just need to pray for these people right now, because that's what I saw. I saw, um, or he, that these people are now going to be persecuted. I almost want to say like tax things, money,
Yeah.
whatever they can find on them, because you know, the king is tired, thinking that there's a traitor in his midst, but it's not. There's a prophet in Israel, and you know, this is really what he dropped on me, and something else about a something we could talk about, a sickness.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
that's but there's also lots of good.
A lot of
There's
good
lots of
stuff.
victory, lots of victory,
Yeah, well,
and it's
great.
going to happen
So
over and
let me
over.
ask you a question. Are you going to be starting a website? Are you going to be starting your own Facebook page, that kind of stuff that you're going to be sharing stuff like this with? Or is that something you've been thinking about doing?
I have actually. I just haven't. Um, no, I was going to do this first. We
Okay.
can do this much more often if you like,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
but yeah,
I think
I
it'd be
am
great
going to.
because, people need to hear that. Oftentimes it's like it might be something they don't think about, but as soon as they start hearing it, they go, oh my gosh, I've been wondering why this is happening, and it's been foretold. Even and we don't have time right now. Oh, I wish we did, but a lot of things that have happened in the last couple of weeks with the election and the whole Kamala Harris thing. Oh gosh, if we could even have gone through that, but those things were all prophesied, and we could have, but we just don't have the time for it right now. But anyways,
You
Aaron,
know,
I'm
you're
going to
right.
get you
You're
back
right.
here. We'll get you back on the show, and you'll be able to share some of that stuff with the our folks here. And I cannot wait to get you back. Okay, you promise to come back?
I'll come back whenever you ask,
All
buddy.
right, fantastic. Okay, folks, this has been Aaron Newton. He's been on This Week in Prophecy, and we will see him again very, very soon, guys. So Aaron, if people want to get a hold of you, do you have a way they can contact you right now, or can we?
No, not right now.
Okay,
Next time we come on, I'll give you something.
okay, sounds good. All right, Aaron, we'll talk to you in just a bit. Okay.
Okay, buddy.
All right, we'll see you.
Bye now.
And thank you, folks, for being a part of the broadcast today. This, like I said, this is our first broadcast of This Week in Prophecy, and I want to thank our guest Aaron Newton for being on the show. He will be back, you guys, so don't worry about it. He will be back, and we'll get our contact information, all that kind of stuff that you can contact him with. So don't worry about that. Okay. Anyways, this has been Pastor Sherman Ray for This Week in Prophecy. We will see you guys again really soon, probably next week. But don't worry, we'll be back. Okay, we'll talk to you guys later. Okay, bye bye.